Welcome to the world's last night. My name is James Thayer. Today we are still reading Genesis. We're in chapter 12, and we are about to be introduced to Abram, who is a main character in many a religion, which we're going to talk about in a second. Let's get started. Verse 1, chapter 12. The Lord said to Abram, "Go out from your land, your relatives, and your father's house, to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse those who treat you with contempt, and all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So God finds favor with Abram here, comes to him and speaks to him and makes basically a prophetic promise to bless him. Not only that, but to bless those who will be blessing him and to curse those who treat him with contempt. So Abram is definitely a blessed man to receive this kind of favor from the Lord. We're not told anything about Abram at this point. Nothing indicates that he was a righteous man. Nothing indicates why God would choose him, but God decided to have grace on him, which is unmerited favor. That's what the definition of grace is. If you ever wondered what the definition of mercy is keep holding back a punishment someone deserves, whereas grace is giving something to someone they do not deserve. So Abram is receiving unmerited favor from God here, and what we will find out, I love this last part of that where it says, "And all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you." Because that, to me, is talking about Jesus, because Jesus comes through this line of Abram, who will later be called Abraham, as we'll find out. God gives him a new name. Now, Abram is a prolific figure in the three major religions in the world. So you have Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, and Abraham shows up in all three. We're going to talk a little bit more about his children, Ishmael and Isaac, and what that means for the Jews and the Muslims, what each of their claims are. But the Jews claim Abram to be their physical forefather as well as spiritual, and both the Muslims and the Christians agree that Abraham is a spiritual forerunner or forefather. So he is absolutely an important figure in history. I'm going to keep reading in verse 4. So Abram went out as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Remember, Lot is his nephew. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people he had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. So he's got some servants, he's got his possessions, his nephew, and his wife. So when they came to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the side of Shechem, at the oak of Moreh. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. Now the Canaanites will become a great arch nemesis of the Israelites down the line. And remember, the Israelites trace their lineage to Abram. So verse 7, "But the Lord appeared to Abram and said, I will give this land to your offspring." So he, which is talking about Abram, built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. So God's already giving this promise that he's going to, well, this is the promised land, right? He's promising this land to Abram's offspring that is currently inhabited by the Canaanites, who, as we learned earlier, are going to be a cursed people, the lowest of the brothers, and eventually, as we find out, they are going to be a very sinful people too, and they're going to worship false gods and be led astray. So we'll keep reading. From there, he moved on to the hill country east of, you can either say Bethel or Bethel, and pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and A, which is spelled A-I, so I don't know how you pronounce that, I-A, on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and worshipped him. Then Abram journeyed by stages to the Negev. I wish I could tell you what the Negev is. I'll have to look that up. Maybe next time I can give you a definition. It's a region, but I would like to know what it encompasses in modern day. So, an interesting thing here to look at is the fact that as Abram is traveling, he's worshiping God the whole way. So I think that's great. All right, verse 10. There was a famine in the land, So Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine in the land was severe. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, "Look, I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' They will kill me, but let you live." Okay, so we're about to get to another weird thing. No one is sinless, guys. And if you set up any biblical character other than Jesus Christ himself as your ultimate role model, you're going to be disappointed. They all disappoint. That lets you know a few things. One, it adds some authenticity that these people actually existed and they lived. You'll even find, because they believe the Pentateuch was written by Moses, you're going to find Moses screws up multiple times. And he's not painted as a really great guy. He paints himself as humble, which is very interesting. My wife likes to point that out. But even the greatest figures that we have in the Bible outside of Jesus have their failures. And we're about to see one of Abram. And I think he makes this failure twice. So he's talking to his wife. He's saying, the Egyptians think you're beautiful. They're going to kill me and steal you. And there is definitely evidence to show that pharaohs really did like foreign women. So it's not like it was a grievance that was misplaced. But how he responds to that is really dumb. So here we go. They will kill me and let you live. Please say you're my sister. So it will go well for me because of you, and my life will be spared on your account. Wow. This gets harped on a lot, but Abram's basically using his wife to save his own skin, and in doing so, he's putting his wife in jeopardy. And that's bad. There's two different thoughts in philosophy that I'm well acquainted with on how you should treat people. And one's utilitarianism, and the other one is Kantianism. And there was a guy named Immanuel Kant that Kantianism is named after. But basically, these are diametrically opposed to each other. Now, utilitarianism says that we can use people so long as, through using them as a means, it creates a greater good. And so in philosophy, you have these ideas like, would you kill an innocent child in order to save 1,000 other people? If you had to do that, would you torture someone in order to save lives? There's a lot of ways to look at that, but utilitarianism is typically about maximizing, quote unquote, the good in the world, and it really doesn't care about the means so much. Now, Kantianism, in opposition to this, basically says you can never treat someone as a means to an end. Rather, people have to be ends in themselves. So it basically says we can't use people, especially involuntarily, as a means to an end, even if that end is a net good, positive. Well, Abram is definitely utilitarian here. He's saying, we're going to sacrifice you a little bit. Yeah, you might get, raped or taken in as a wife, but and then in doing so commit sexual immorality, but it's going to save my life, which is a greater good. I think that philosophy is a mistake. I think that people should not be treated as means, but we'll continue. So, okay, be my sister, tell him you're my sister, spare my life on your account. When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her to Pharaoh. So the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house. So Sarai's going to Pharaoh's house. He treated Abram well because of her, and Abram acquired flocks and herds, male and female donkeys, male and female slaves, and camels. But the Lord struck Pharaoh and his house with severe plagues because of Abram's wife Sarai. So Pharaoh sent for Abram and said, "What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she's my sister, so that I took her as my wife? Now, here's your wife. Take her and go." Then Pharaoh gave his men orders about him, and they sent him away with his wife and all he had. So Abram loses favor with Pharaoh because of, I don't even know what to call this. It's not a prank. It's a lie. He lied to Pharaoh, and in doing so, caused him and his wife to sin in order to save his own skin, collect lots of goods, and curry favor. And so Pharaoh finds out and kicks them out. Not cool on Abram's part. And I don't even think he learns his lesson. I'm pretty sure he does this again. We'll find out just to be sure. So we're in chapter 13 now. Then Abram went up from Egypt to the Negev, he, his wife, and all he had, and Lot with him. Abram was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. He went by stages from the Negev to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had formerly been, to the site where he had built the altar, and Abram worshipped the Lord there. Now Lot, who was traveling with Abram, also had flocks, herds, and tents, but the land was unable to support them as long as they stayed together, for they had so many possessions that they could not stay together. And there was quarreling between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. At that time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were living in the land. So lots of tension going on. I guess you can be too wealthy if you're next to each other and your wealth is cattle that needs to eat. I don't know if it's cattle. Could be sheep, whatever, but they need to eat. And there's only so much good land and good pasture for them. So then Abram said to Lot, "Please, let's not have quarreling between you and me, or between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, since we are relatives." That's good. "Isn't the whole land before you? Separate from me. If you go to the left, I will go to the right. If you go to the right, I will go to the left." Lot looked out and saw that the entire Jordan Valley, as far as Zor, was well watered everywhere, like the Lord's garden and the land of Egypt. This was before God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose the entire Jordan Valley for himself. Then Lot journeyed eastward, and they separated from each other. Abram lived in the land of Canaan, but Lot lived in the cities of the valley, and set up his tent near Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were evil, sinning greatly against the Lord. So he's setting up camp next to a city full of evil people that have no regard for God. But Abram and Lot are separated now. And they both choose good pasture, apparently. After Lot had separated from him, the Lord said to Abram, "Look from the place where you are. Look north and south, east and west." That's cool. That's every direction, right? "For I will give you and your offspring forever all the land that you see. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if one could count the dust of the earth, then your offspring could be counted. Get up and walk from one end of the land to the other, for I will give it to you." So Abram moved his tent and went to live beside the oaks of Mamre at Hebron, where he built an altar to the Lord. Okay, let's keep some things in mind because it matters later. Sarai is barren. We remember that from a few chapters ago. She can't have children. And yet here God is saying that Abram is going to have basically innumerable offspring. Who knows if this is hyperbole, or if it's spiritual children that God's talking about here. But he is apparently going to have a bunch of offspring, and Sarai is barren and can't have children. So there's an issue here. And it's going to take a miracle on the part of God to fix this. So we're going to get into Lot. It's going to need rescuing here in the next chapter. We're going to get into that. We're going to see what happens to Sodom and Gomorrah and how God is going to bring about these grand promises he's given Abram. And we're going to see why Abram is so well regarded in all three major religions. And I'll give you a hint. It's because of his faith. So until then, we'll chat later. Thank you very much. Bye.